This is Jules. I am Jim. Got it down this week. You go to your left. Wait, let's do it. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And today, it's our very special, it's a very meta episode of Jules and Jim. This is a callback. I don't know how many episodes ago it was. I mean, we've only had 4. But you talked about Family Ties, classic 80s sitcom. And you said whenever they had serious episodes, they wouldn't play the theme music.
That's right. They wouldn't. And they wouldn't play it. I don't know about if they wouldn't play it in the beginning, but at the end would just be the credits.
Or I feel sometimes, maybe I'm like misremembering this, but sometimes at the end credits, instead of playing the song, they would play sad piano music.
I feel like I remember it being silent. And when I think of like serious episodes, I think of course, the episode with Tom Hanks, iconic, where he drinks the vanilla extract, iconic.
I remember that, the vanilla, and I remember turning to my parents, I'm like, is that alcohol?
I did the same thing. What are some other like very special episodes?
Well, then there was one where he was, Michael, what was his character's name? Alex P. Keaton. He was studying and he had to take drugs to stay up. And then I think he became addicted to them.
He did. That's right. I remember the episode. I don't know if this was very special in general or just very special to me, where Justine Bateman and Scooter? No. Who was the next one?
Skippy.
They got, and he was in love with her. They got locked in like a basement together.
Yes. And they had to wear those furry suits.
Yes.
All right. So anyway, I bring all of this up because this is a very meta episode of Jules and Jim. So I think we should restart the show with some sadder music.
Okay, I'm with that.
So shall we?
Go ahead.
It is Jules and Jim. This is our very meta. Oh yeah. It's our very meta episode. And this could either be the coolest episode of Jules and Jim ever, like the most interesting, or the most boring. Basically, we are going to have a real life discussion of what to do with the show on air.
Correct. So I think that this is very in the vein of Jules and Jim, because Jules and Jim, the podcast, is also based loosely on Jules and Jim, the French New Wave film by Francois Truffaut.
Which I've never seen. Yes.
Which you've never seen, but you might have learned this if you've seen the very special black and white episode of Jules and Jim. So what we know about postmodernism is that postmodernism is about breaking the fourth wall. So it's not that let's pretend we're in a podcast and no one's listening. Like let's not pretend this is a real conversation. It's let's acknowledge it's me, it's you, we're in a podcast, and this is the thing that's happening. It's a construct that we're creating in the service of art. That's very French New Wave. So to have a conversation about it while we're in it is meta and Brechtian and postmodern.
Did you just say Brechtian?
I sure did.
What is Brechtian? I don't think I can say I've never used that word in my life.
Are you familiar with Bertolt Brecht?
No.
Okay. Bertolt Brecht is a playwright, I believe from Germany, who is like the godfather of postmodernism. So when you see a Brecht play, when you see a regular play, the lights go out in the audience and the lights are on stage and the audience pretends they're not there and the actors pretend the audience is not there, and it's suspension of disbelief. There's a fourth wall. In Brechtian drama, because it's postmodern, I know I'm in the audience, you know you're on stage. So let's leave all the lights up. And in fact, sometimes they would put up like a piece of plastic so that it would reflect. So you do your own reflection while you're trying to watch the show. I mean, it's just ridiculous, like intellectual art for art's sake. But I happen to have a BFA in drama from the Tisch School of the Arts, just calling out my alma mater. And this is the type of theater that we would go and then we would talk about it. So like, what is your, and I will go so far as to say, and then we'll close this up. Something that I love is WWE. Okay. I fucking love the WWE wrestling.
I do too. And that surprises me because you don't like sports, yet you like WWE.
That's right. Because WWE is not sports. It is theater.
I would argue that it's both.
I would argue it's theater and maybe even drag, but okay. It's theater. And when you're at a show, when you're at a WWE event, you know that what's happening is staged and no one's getting hurt. They know that you know that, but everyone comes in and plays their part. So you come in and you cheer for your, if you're going for the good guy or the bad guy, and it's all fixed and it's all staged and it's a performance. But we as the audience, we go in to play our role. And so that's what I love about it. When I go to WWE, which are my clients also, so I've been to some really cool events. I go to there, I
Yes,
go
you
to
have.
WWE, and I wear the thing. Like if I'm into Ronda, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, I go in and I'm like, yeah, Ronda. Like my job is to cheer for Ronda Rousey and to boo for whoever's fighting her, and it's fun. It's performance. It's performance as audience.
So are you saying WWE is postmodern?
I believe WWE is incredibly postmodern.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was your setup to this episode. My setup is this is one of many side gigs that we have.
Okay.
This is a side gig that we don't even get paid for.
Right.
We're both parents. We
Yes.
both have multiple jobs. We don't have much time to do this show.
Yeah.
So it would take extra time to have this meeting. So we're just basically multitasking. We're having the meeting while making a show. So that's my take on it.
It's multitasking. It's how you are a working parent in 2023. You got to do two things at once.
So I'm just like, let's kill two birds with one stone. You're like, this is postmodern.
I'm like, it's theater. It's theater. It might be theater of the absurd, but it's theater. It's postmodern theater, and it's also helpful and useful.
All right, so shall we go back to the beginning? I think we should go back to the beginning. First time I met you, early 2000s, Northern State was playing at the Siren Festival, and I interviewed you for an episode of Subterranean.
Correct.
All right, so that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you remember this.
Look at us now.
So, 2004, I actually remember the date because it was so special to me. October 16th, 2004. First time I ever got to see the Beastie Boys from the side of the stage.
Wow.
I always wanted to be cool enough to see a band from the side of the stage.
Yeah.
So I saw the Beastie Boys perform at Voodoo Fest. Northern State was also on the side of the stage just because you were so cool.
No, because Adam came to our show and he invited us. I totally forgot you were there, except that I remember, and I'm sure I told you this on air at Sirius, because I remembered it then. I'm remembering myself remembering it, speaking of postmodern, that Sprout was like flirting with you at that event. Like I remember she was like,
Sprout was my connection.
Cute. Yeah, and she thought you were hot, and she was like, Chip Cheers from MTV is here.
Well, that's good because I always told Sprout, I'm like, hey, like my band should open up for Northern State.
Yeah.
And she actually took me up on it because however many years later, my band Deck of Jack opened up for Gym Class Heroes in Northern State. You were the headliners.
That's insane to me. But I think Sprout had a kind of a crush on you. And I remember that happening at that show.
Thank you, Sprout. And I remember having a conversation with you a couple years ago and you didn't even remember that show.
I remember that tracks.
So then fast forward years later, I'm working at Sirius XM and I find out that you are now sort of in the fill-in role at Sirius XM Volume. So every so often when a host would get sick or go on vacation, they had Jeff Slate, they had Michael Pagnotta, and then you became part of the roster, and I was thrilled. So right away I said, oh, like Hester Prynne, you got to be on my game show. And you were on my game show. And I think this was late 2019. I think that's the last time I saw you in person.
No, haven't we seen each other
I don't think.
Did we see each other at the studio since the pandemic?
I don't think we did.
We've just been talking on social?
Yes.
I mean, on this?
Yes.
You sure?
I think so. Because I was only at the studio 2 or 3 times after the pandemic.
I guess. It's weird. That's scary.
No, it's such a weird world because I'll bump into people and I'll say, have we met in real life? Because I see you all the time in the virtual world, but I don't know if we've met in real life. And they're like, no, we've never met in real life.
Wow.
So during our time at SiriusXM, you came up with the idea that we start a show called Jules and Jim.
Correct. Which, by the way, we are doing, and I think it's a great show. But I don't know if we're there yet. Yeah, but I'm just saying.
So I came up with a pitch deck to pitch at SiriusXM Volume, but I believe at the same time you were pitching a show.
That's right.
You couldn't pitch 2 shows.
I was pitching my Music is Therapy show, which I now do on Amazon AMP, which I've tried to have you, which you've been on several times, but I think you're finished with that platform.
No, all right, so back to us at SiriusXM.
Okay.
Whenever we were on air together,
Yes,
it felt like you could finish my sentences.
that's right.
So we had good chemistry.
Correct.
Am I right about that? Like on my end, I'm like,
doing it right now. I'm finishing your sentences.
All right, yeah. So do you feel that way?
Of course, we have the same. We are the same. We are of the same. We are Beastie Boy people. Be boys, be girls. That's us. We're the people that when he says be boys, be girls, he's calling out Jules and Jim.
In Sure Shot.
We're not casual fans.
Yes.
We're living a lifestyle.
So we're connected by the Beastie Boys. I've been on auditions before where they've had chemistry tests. So they bring in 10 different people and they're like, all right, let's try this pair. Let's try this pair. Let's try this pair. And then they try to figure out who has the best chemistry together.
We have the best chemistry together. And by the way, everyone says that.
Yes,
everyone.
no, we do. We do. That's why we're doing this.
Right.
So I noticed that immediately. And then during the pandemic, by the way, I'm still in fill-in mode at SiriusXM. Never went to full-time mode at SiriusXM Volume. No, I was always a fill-in.
Didn't you have like the Jim Shearer show there?
But I was a fill-in.
How are you filling in for yourself on a show called, if the show's called the Jim Shearer Show and you're the fill-in, who's the host?
So I just got paid per episode.
Okay,
so
but
some hosts would get a contract.
Yeah.
I got a fill-in rate, and I would get paid a fill-in rate for each time I did the Jim Shearer show.
That feels like you need a new lawyer. It also feels like that's like a permalance loophole, which I don't love.
All right, so maybe I wasn't fill-in, maybe I was permalance.
I just don't love that. Like if there's a show with your namesake and you're also you and you were on, I mean, you were on so much and you were part of the original group, it feels a little bit like we're trying to save a buck. And I don't love that for you. As your attorney, I'm not happy.
But I always thought, I'm like, why is Hester Prince still a fill-in? Hester Prince should have her own show.
Well, I was going to have my show called Music is Therapy, but you know what happened to Volume 106.
No.
It's gone the way of Conan O'Brien.
And I don't know if this is ironically or coincidentally, Volume was kicked off 106 and Team Coco now occupies channel 106.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. All right. You were saying
that's
that.
Literally what I said.
I thought it was sort of like a Tonight Show thing.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, it could be whatever, but yes, that's what happened. And so,
all right, so we're on air together.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great. Like, we don't even have to prepare.
I haven't prepared a thing. Do I sound prepared to you?
So, long story short, that pitch deck never made it to anyone. Right. So I jump on your AMP show, which you can listen to Monday through Wednesday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. East.
Eastern.
And I loved being with you on AMP, but whatever's going on in the universe with satellites and cell phones and connections, you would say, because we had the Google Hangout on, you would say something, and then I wouldn't hear it until like 3 seconds later.
It's challenging.
And then 50% of the time, your audio would drop out. So I would have to guess what you were saying.
Yeah,
so our chemistry was so good that I couldn't even hear you half the time, but we were having a conversation.
It's gotten much better, but that technology is a hard technology to have this sort of like overlapping type of work that you and I pioneered. That being said, the audience loves you. And even my mother, who's like listening and like missing, more than you were missing, you know what I'm saying? She's like, you and that Jim Shearer, like really, you guys are great together. Everyone, that's the feedback, like across the board. And the audience is like, you and Jim, you're the best pair. Like you guys should do something together. Like everyone says that. It's not just us.
So I did get frustrated because I couldn't hear you.
I get it.
Okay. So I said, let's just do something.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation. You called me up and we said, do we do a podcast? And I'm like, well, I feel like there's like a gazillion podcasts. What if we just did a YouTube show? Yeah. And then we could shop out little pieces to social media. We're like, yeah, let's try that. And then we talked about, we have connections.
Yeah, we got connections.
We have connections. And I thought, what if I pitched it to this person and you pitched it to that person? And we had an idea, but I thought, you know what? Let's create some episodes first so we
Yeah.
actually have something to show people.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to go to one of your connections and say, hey, I have this great idea. Now we
Right.
have more than an idea. We have an actual show.
That's right. We have a catalog.
So in an email, because when we go to email level, I feel like it's official then. Like we'll
Yeah.
talk, but when the email is sent, then
Yes.
that's like our procedure. I guess we kind of agreed to do 4.
Yeah, well, that's what you said. Let's do 4.
Let's do 4. And then after 4, we'll have a discussion of what we should do with this show.
That's right.
And now we are having the discussion.
Here we are. So you want me to start?
You go first. You go first.
How do you want this discussion to go? Do you want to hit on like there are several subtopics, or do you want it to be a free form? This is how I feel.
However, you're leading it, so however you want to start.
I will give
Before you start, what if I start crying?
You're not gonna cry.
What if you're like, Jim, we're done? I'm like, no.
It's a safe space. It's a safe space.
All right.
I'm gonna throw out my thought. I'm gonna throw out several thoughts of how I'm feeling right in this moment.
Does this feel like a therapy session?
Well, this is what I do professionally.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me do it. I'm gonna throw out several thoughts in no particular order or structure of how I'm feeling in this moment, and with the framework that thoughts and feelings change moment to moment. So this is not mean we have to take action. This means we're creating a dialogue.
Isn't this awesome?
This is literally what I do when I'm a therapist.
But I love that we're recording this.
Yeah, me too.
This could have been a meeting, but the meeting is now a show. Like
Nobody has time for meeting. I don't have time for meeting.
Yeah, this is our meeting.
This is what I'll say. For me, I have a lot of commitments, as I know you do. That's enough to say that the two of us are overcommitted is a joke. And that's real talk. And so when we agreed,
have you been talking to my wife?
Yeah, I know. When we agreed to do this and we said, let's just do it, the fact that and I'm even just speaking for myself, because I know myself better than I know you, but I do know you. But the fact that I could see myself replying to the emails as well as I can, I'm always sometimes, like I sometimes reply and then I'm like, I'll get you later. The fact that I was making the headspace, the brain space to actively reply to you, to get these meetings on the calendar and to show up 4 weeks in a row, like actions speak louder than words. And for me, seeing myself do that is like that. I knew it was because it was something I wanted to do. And to sort of further that point, when I said to Randy, my husband, me and Jim are going to do like a podcast now, he was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like you have no time. Why are you doing this? Like, why are you taking something else? And I said, well, that's a good question. And the reason I'm doing it is because in my mind, I have like several categories of how I use my time. Work, which takes up the most, parenting, which is like the second or maybe the most, whatever.
Yes.
Work and parenting, then like maintenance, which is like exercising and trying to like, pay some bills and like do some dishes, and then fun. And fun is this big. What's the smallest thing? Yeah, that's how much fun I have. And that's kind of normal for like our age, I think, and life stage. That it's not the most fun life stage. You really have to work because we have a lot of commitments going up, going down. It's a hard time of life. And so
I had a friend recently, she's in her 60s, and she told me and my wife, this is the busiest you'll ever be in your life. So just remember that. All right, continue.
I think that's really good. I think that's really good to hear. So the only way I have fun, because it falls to the end and I never have any fun. The only way I have fun is to actively like schedule fun into my life. And then it's the first thing to cross off the list too. So I've put myself in a position where there are several things I do in work that are fun, and that's where I get my joy. But if I don't have a DJ gig, I start to get sad, and it's because I don't have any fun. So then I have to plan to have drinks with a friend, but then, whatever. When we talked about doing this, every time I talk to you, it feels really fun. Not doing the podcast. When we would talk about it, when we'd be on the air, that chemistry, that feeling is the thing that makes this not feel like work. And so when I structured it in my mind of how are you going to do this? You have no time for this. I said, this is structured fun. This is fun that I'm planning. And it's not fun that requires me to go out drinking. And it's not fun that requires me to book a babysitter or spend money or drive anywhere or even like get dressed. Although I do have makeup on today because I was on air this morning, but it doesn't require me to the lift is really light. And that's why I enjoy doing this, because I put it in the category, for me, it falls into fun, not into work. Now, I have a secondary, we can throw it to you and then we can talk about
This is
maybe the,
fascinating. This is fascinating.
okay. The sort of second part of the conversation for me after I let you talk is, how long does something stay fun without there being sort of like, when it is kind of work, when you have to commit to it and you're not getting paid, and it's not like, if it's not growing, although when you do something you decide to make it grow, we could make it grow if we wanted to, we could. It's like, at what point does the scale tip when it starts being like, okay, this is now like another commitment I have to do. 4 weeks
Jules and
is not,
Jim.
I know, and 4 weeks is not that time.
Right. We're in the honeymoon stage.
Kind of. So so I've said a lot. What do you think?
So to me, the saddest thing, and by the way, I was thinking about this yesterday as I was doing laundry.
Exactly.
I do laundry, dishes, I'm cooking dinner.
Never ends.
So I thought, when was the first time I posted something on YouTube? And it was in 2006, which was years ago. And then I've had web shows, I've had podcasts. There was a series of sports web shows that got popular enough where I got a writing gig out of it, and I was on the most popular morning show in Pittsburgh out of it.
Wow.
And it still didn't grow the show. I still couldn't crack that ceiling. So I know how much work it takes to have a successful show. I didn't even have a successful show. I got like a couple of gigs out of it, but I didn't like go viral or anything. So I know it takes a lot of work. And then I've done podcasts, and I've done a little bit of everything in the digital space. So I understand that you don't put one episode out and you go viral and you're like, yeah, like I knew this would happen. I know it takes work. And I know there's always a tipping point, like you said, because I did a podcast for a while. I think I did it for almost 2 years. And it came to the point where I'm like, I don't have the time anymore.
Is that Unboxing the 90s?
No, that would have been with me and Lyle Presler.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was like a full 1 hour podcast. We did it every week. I think we did it consistently for like a year and a half, 2 years. And I got so busy with things that I didn't have time to promote the podcast.
Yeah.
So I thought, we have this awesome this awesome product, but I don't have the time to promote it. And I remember we made a pitch deck, like we presented it to Spotify. Spotify didn't pick it up. And I'm like, I gotta like do something else.
Yeah.
And then what always depresses me is when I have a friend or someone I know go balls to the wall for their new podcast. Like, I got a new podcast coming out, check it out. And I think to myself, it's probably only going to last like 3 or 4 weeks, if that.
Yeah.
And then after 2 or 3 weeks, you see that they don't promote their podcast anymore because they don't have time to do it. Or maybe they expect to go viral after they post that first podcast. So when I always wanted to do a show with you. So when I was writing that pitch deck years ago, it was probably 3 years ago, I'm like, this would be the coolest thing to have a show on Sirius XM with Jolie.
Yeah.
And that never happened. And that ship, Hamburglar fell, that ship kind of sailed for me. But when we did the AMP stuff and then you said, hey, let's do something, I'm like, I want to see like how that would have panned out.
Yeah.
So, and then you were responding to my emails. It was back and forth. I'm like, oh, I think Julie wants to do this. So we did the first couple of episodes. And like you said, it was really fun. And you said something, it was either in episode 1 or 2, you said, this is scratching an itch. And I thought, yes, that's it. So this scratches an itch. Because I used to get paid to introduce music videos on television. I got paid to do this. Right. A great salary. And I kind of gave that up over the years. But every so often, like an athlete who hasn't played basketball in a while, I think of myself as a television personality who thinks that he could maybe still do it.
You definitely could still do it.
So even though this isn't on MTV or VH1, the fact that every week I'm getting on camera and I'm talking about music scratches that itch for me. And I never did it for the money. I always did it because I love music. So to me, I'm doing it for the love. Like, I love talking about music. I love being on camera. I'm not like an egomaniac, but I like talking about music when a camera's rolling.
Totally. It's fun. So it sounds like we like the ground, and if we're building a pyramid, it sounds like the bottom level of the pyramid is kind of the same, or like a layer cake. It sounds like we're aligned
Right.
on like how does this feel? Okay?
Yes.
So I think the question for me, or the next question, is like the promotional strategy for the, and by the way, your production on this is awesome. Like it only works because you turn it into a show. Because that I could not do. I don't have a clear, because I work on too many things. I don't have a clear like strategy on how to promote this. So I've reposted every time I see it, I repost it. I talk about it on my show on Amazon, but then sometimes you send me like a WeTransfer and I like can't, sometimes I post, like I just can't, I don't have the clarity to figure out. It's just that part of it is too disorganized for me. That's number one. And then I think number two is like, I would be like, when we originally talked about doing this and we're like, could we do it on MTV2.com, which sounds great to me. Like I would do it on that just to have it out there. I would love it to be more on somewhere because to me, it's like the way our story goes, and our story, I think, reflects like the industry. I'm a little tired because I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning today. So
We'll talk about before we end
okay.
this episode. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm a little dip. My energy's very low today, but I'm happy. I'm just very tired. I slept like 3 hours. So
Ooh.
our story reflects the industry because we started on like on like cable television.
Yeah.
And then we went like down and down and down. And now I'm just like in my kitchen.
No, there's kids right now who know nothing about music who probably have like 3 million hits per episode.
Right. So I feel like I would like it to occur. It doesn't have to be on MTV Subterranean on the television because, like, what is that even?
That doesn't even exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore. But I would like it to occur on like
A
something
platform. A platform. An established platform.
And I know myself, and even though this is fun, it always like I need a cosign to feel good about something.
Okay. Should we talk about our initial dream?
Yeah, let's talk about our financial goals.
So Julie said, yeah, like, I used to fill in on Sirius XM.
I don't know, wait, stop. I don't think we should talk about this.
We shouldn't. Okay. All right. Because we could be like underselling ourselves or
right.
overselling ourselves.
Hopefully not over, but yes, exactly.
But we said it would be nice if we got paid.
I don't think we should name numbers.
No, I'm not going to give numbers, but it would be nice if we got paid to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we should. We do a million other fucking things and get paid for it. We should get paid to do this.
Like, imagine if we were buddies that played wiffle ball. We would say it'd be nice if someone paid us to play wiffle ball.
But the difference is, it's like if we were buddies who played wiffle ball, we'd be like two lawyers who play wiffle ball. We actually do this for jobs, Jim, and we're just doing it on the side here for free.
That's true.
This is like our actual careers.
That's true. That's true.
A little different. We're professionals.
No, like we're not two kids in our basement who said, let's start a podcast.
This isn't Wayne's World, okay? Or is it? So if we were to try to make this thing more like formal, what do you see as the options for that? Who is like even paying for this shit anymore?
So what I thought was we create a new niche. So to our generation, maybe this is me. We're just spitballing here, by the way.
I like this. I like where you're going with this.
Our generation still reveres MTV. I remember it was heartbreaking to me because sometimes I speak to high school classes. Like I'll have a friend that's a teacher and they say, oh, like come speak to my class and tell them about how you used to work on TV. And I'll talk about MTV and they have these blank looks on their face and they don't even know what MTV is. Could you imagine us not knowing MTV when we went to high school?
No, MTV was hype. I mean, that was all we did.
It was everything.
Everything.
MTV, to a certain sect, still carries cachet.
To us.
So I think that if this lived on MTV's digital space, doesn't have to be the main show. It could just be part of their platter. I think it would work well. I think you'd get the Gen Xers, the millennials, some of the zillennials. I think they would enjoy this.
Right, because it would feel like kind of postmodern. Which, oh my God, that ties back into the theme of the show. But it would feel like ironic, and it would feel like when, like when normcore became cool and like the kids were dressing like Jerry Seinfeld. Do you know about this?
No.
Oh my God, it's like not even a thing anymore. Like you would see
I
kids in,
remember when
like,
they dressed like Civil War generals, but you're talking
no,
about Jerry Seinfeld.
normcore. It's like people like in Bushwick or wherever the kids are even doing. I don't even know if that's even where it is anymore. Kids would wear like white Reebok sneakers and like slacks, and like it was ironic to dress like super normal. Like Jerry Seinfeld would dress in like a turtleneck and like khakis and a belt and a pair of sneakers and with like a corny haircut, and that was called normcore, right?
Wow.
Normcore. It's ironic. And I think that there's something ironic, I hope, about what we're doing, because we're doing like a conversation from a time gone by, and we're people, not that we're people from a time gone by, because we're still here, but like we're dipping into a part of our lives from a time gone by. And I think if we did it on MTV, because it's meaningful to us, it's like the same way Sirius XM, they were not a huge payday for me at least. But I love Sirius XM because I am obsessed with Howard Stern, and because I was a fan of the show that I listened to, that I was on. Before I was on the show, I was a fucking fan. And then I got to be on the show. It was like a dream come true. So it's like you do things like that for not that much money. And MTV, like Rolling Stone, has like a cachet and a name to people of our demo. So it's like I would do it for not that much money if I could do it on MTV.
And to me, because I can rationalize it, because as I was aging out of the MTV demo, I was like, you're like, oh, you're too old to be on MTV. But I think if we came back, I'm just going to put Hamburglar down right now. But if we came back to MTV, I think a lot of those people who still loved MTV back in the day, they might like to come back.
Yeah, why the fuck not? And it's also like, how big is the investment in that chance?
Because we're not asking to be on MTV. We wouldn't work on MTV
Wants it?
proper.
Who's on? What's even going on MTV?
But, well, they just play ridiculousness. But Rob Dyrdek, he's got to be like near our age now, right?
I don't even
So
know.
if he's on MTV nonstop
Yeah.
posting ridiculousness,
Yeah,
why couldn't we have a little sliver of the digital space?
and like a real proper music show. Like it's not really just me. I mean, I haven't seen the
No,
pitch.
itd be our own thing.
Yeah, be like our
It's
own
Jules
little
and
music
Jim
show.
on MTV.com.
That's right. I'm with that. I think that's a good goal.
What about, I have tried a few times throughout the years. I don't think I'm cool enough, but I think with you, we might be cool enough.
For what?
Vice. Something in
Yeah,
the Vice property.
I think Vice would understand that sort of like ironic. What was that art book that I saw that I took a picture of and sent to you?
I
Neck
forget. It was
face.
was it Y2K something?
Oh, it was Neck Face.
Oh,
Remember Neck Face? It's
no.
like Neck Face was like a graffiti artist of our generation. You would totally recognize it because it was like from our day. And Vice like totally gets that. I just don't know like what their deal is. I don't know if Vice still thinks they're cool and don't understand their own irony, is what I'm saying. I don't know
Okay.
that Vice gets that like they're corny and corporate.
Okay.
It's like MTV definitely gets that. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, I
Like
do.
Vice might still be trying to like do it round one and not like ironically, like MTV's already on like the fifth generation of reinventing in itself. I don't know that Vice is like has gotten that yet. And I
All right.
know, I don't know if my name means anything there, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. Maybe.
Maybe.
What I've noticed is like the Northern State fan base is now like of an age where they're like in jobs that matter. So my daughter's really interested in coding and robotics, and there's this organization called Girls Who Code, which is like a thing that we're getting involved in. And I had emailed or something or whatever, and like the head of talent, which for them talent means hiring, not talent like
Right.
the head of talent, so like a C-suite executive, like somehow got involved in my email and was like, "Hi, I just want to tell you, was a huge fan of your band. My daughter is 11, and I play her Northern State all the time. And would you send her an email?" And like, I'm starting to see that like every couple months, like that happens to me. Even on the air, like I was on AMP the other night, and somebody ended up in my room and I mentioned something about Northern State, and she was like, "Oh my God, I saw you play in DC," whatever. Like it's people are remembering, so maybe Vice would remember.
So, as we sort of pitch this out or send it out, what's like the time frame? Like, do we do another 5 episodes and you're like, all right, I'm
I think
done?
we say, listen, I have to go. Next week I'm here. The following week I'm away for spring break. Do you have a spring break situation that you have to deal with your kids?
No.
Okay, I have a 1 week spring break to deal with that I won't be here.
Okay.
June, let's say this. June is my most difficult month because I have
Okay.
to travel almost 15 days in June, and then my daughter's going to sleepaway camp for 7 weeks at the end of June, which I'm like so stressed out about. That's like what Jewish kids do. They like go to sleepaway camp for the whole summer. So June is going to be really hard for me. So why don't we say like it's basically the end of March now ish. April, May. That's 2 more months. Let's keep it. Let's see if we can keep doing this and try to get a couple meetings in 2 months.
All right.
If we could get 3 leads. So
3
maybe
leads.
the 2 you just mentioned, and I'll think about who's maybe in my network, or if you have any other ideas, even if they're not in your network, tell me. And I'll see, let's see if we can pull together 3 leads in 2 months.
All right. So let's say one of those leads, they nibble and then they bite.
Okay, great.
So then do we have the ability to do this weekly?
Of course.
We do. We
I
could
do.
carve out time and then we could do multiple episodes in 1 week.
Absolutely. I would put it in my fun column. Like we would carve out time. We would do it the way we did the first 2, which were much more like, let's do this. Like you produced it essentially. And it was much more, it was tighter. And I was very energetic today. I'm exhausted, but like, that's how we would do it. We would figure it out. We'd carve out the time and we would do it. It'd be fun. I think it would. And then we would reevaluate. We'd have another one of these meetings.
So the goal is we go 2 more months and then we'll see. So quickly, before we go, the reason you're tired is because you were on CNN this morning and you were awesome.
Thank you so much. They actually tweeted the whole video, which was amazing. It was really fun. I talked about Taylor Swift with Don Lemon.
Let's show a quick clip of that.
Oh, okay.
I looked at the new songs this morning. I listened on YouTube, and they had 51 million views.
From midnight.
At 6 a.m.
Wow.
This morning. I haven't even looked in 2 hours.
Wow.
And what's actually amazing about Taylor with all the Taylor's version, if you're following it with the masters, is that she's really become like a legal activist. And when you think of a pop star, especially a pop star who appeals to such like a young age group, you don't think about the kids learning about intellectual property rights and
business.
you don't think of them learning about business.
That's how so many artists get tripped up on that, right? And they lose all of their money, but not Taylor. She owns her masters now, right?
She does.
Fought to get her masters back.
I know you're a fan of early Prince. Am I getting that right?
I'm a fan of, yes. I love all genres of music. I like Taylor Swift. I'm just not as what's the word, knowledgeable about her music as as Caitlin. Caitlin's like really into it.
The 6 a.m. thing, that's totally has to print.
I got very like in your face. I was like, well, when on CNN. Also, like originally they were like, can you wear a blazer? And I was like, I don't know that that's like the look for today. So like they're like, okay, can you wear your like look, your like red things? And I was like, yeah. And so I wore the red jacket and the red hair, and I walk onto the CNN set, and it's like the logo's red, of course, but like the whole set is red. So like when I got there, I was like, oh, this was this looks cool. Like
you look great.
Yeah. So I liked it.
All right. So before you go, in the next
I wish we could do our like music podcast on CNN.com, but like, I don't know. It's not the brand.
Yeah. But in the next 2 months, say if you become like more of a contributor to CNN.
Yes.
Because you rocked the hell out of it this morning. If you have to leave me behind, I'm fine with that.
I don't see
that. It's all good.
I don't see it happening. Listen, this is like loose. We're figuring it out as we go. But I think that like the headline here is that this is fun for us because it scratches an itch.
All right. I like that. So let's end there. So for Jules, aka DJ Has to Print, my name is Jim, and we will see Jens later.